All right, my first reaction to the Indiana Pacers taking out the Cleveland Cavaliers just the other night was, wow, Indiana really is about to go to two consecutive Eastern Conference Final Series. That is a very unique feat, especially in today's game, where we'll see a team have amazing success one year in the playoffs and come back the next season and completely underwhelm. I've talked about this a trillion times on this channel, and I've said it just like this. No team has established themselves as the signature team to beat. We're still waiting to see which team is able to position themselves as the next dynasty. Will it be the Celtics? Well, who knows? Because with Jason Tatum being out, even though they won tonight, there's a possibility that they don't return to the NBA Finals like they were able to get to last season, right? Like, we don't have a team right now in the NBA that has consistently repeated their postseason success. And we're looking at this Pacers team, and they are about to make back-to-back, not about to, they have made back-to-back NBA Eastern Conference Finals appearances. It says a lot about, for one, their front office, who's done a flawless job at just building this team up. It all really started with the trade to bring in Tyrese Haliburton, where you're bringing in a guy who was played a little bit out of position in his first few years in Sacramento, still played well, but wasn't really allowed to be like that floor general, that full-time floor general that we knew him to be at Iowa State. Made the trade, brought him in, and he is exactly who we thought he was as soon as he gets over to Indiana, making dynamic plays, setting guys up, being ridiculously efficient from downtown. And what we learned over like those first few seasons with him in Indiana was, yes, he's great, but they're going to need a complementary piece, especially on the perimeter, in order to try to take things to the next level. So they make a massive midseason trade by bringing in Pascal Siakam, and that turns out to be one of the more effective midseason trades we have seen in a while, and they were able to push themselves to the level they're at now, again, with back-to-back East Conference Finals appearances. I said this in a video that I did a few days ago where I was talking about Cleveland and their struggles in that second round series against Indiana. If you didn't believe that this Pacers thing was a real thing, right? And if you didn't believe that they were a real threat out in the Eastern Conference, and you thought that their playoff run last year was a fluke, right? And you thought that it was just some Cinderella one-off Cinderella run or whatever the case may be. If that's what you thought, you have to put those thoughts to rest now. Back-to-back finals appearances. It's like a ball don't lie sort of thing, right? You can't make back-to-back conference finals and not be an elite team, right? You can't have two flukes in a row. Now, you could say in that first round, Milwaukee was just hurt, right? Similar to what happened in the first round last season. But again, it's tough to try to discount something like this if it's happened in back-to-back seasons. And they did take out a really good Cavaliers team in the second round as well. Now, you could also say that Cleveland did suffer from some injuries. There was like a really short amount of time where Donovan Mitchell was hurt in that second round. Obviously, Darius Garland was out for a good amount of time in that series. But even when those two guys were on the floor together, Indiana still took care of business. And here's also this. A lot of teams, when they are given an advantage like that, where you're playing a team that isn't healthy, a lot of teams are not able to take advantage of that. Right? A lot of teams are not able to execute on that. So we have to give credit to teams who are able to take those sorts of opportunities and actually execute and close out on it, right? So when you're going against a team that's at a disadvantage from a roster standpoint, it is a great sign if you are able to take advantage of that and execute on it. Because again, we see a ton of teams that are presented with an advantage and aren't able to close things out. Case in point, the Knicks, right? You go into a game 5, I believe, where the Celtics are without their arguable best player in Jason Tatum, a perfect opportunity to close one out in Boston, and they lose, right? It was a pretty bad loss that they had tonight against the Celtics in Boston, right? Like, that's the type of stuff where you look at a team that has a clear advantage, but they're not able to execute and take full advantage of that opportunity. So it is a skill. It is a great thing if you are able to see a weakness in another team, whether it's just playing style or health or whatever the case may be, and execute on that, right? Something has to be said about how Carlisle can get that group of guys to do that at a high level, to be able to smell that blood in the water and still be able to execute and do what they need to do to get the job done. I want to circle back to Tyrese Haliburton real quick and really give him credit for what he has been able to accomplish over the last couple of seasons. So obviously there are those conference finals appearances, but what I appreciate about him the most is he has this amazing ability to properly respond to critics. So if we go look at last season, going into the playoffs, a lot of the conversation around Tyrese Haliburton was that he fell off, right? Relative to the level that he was playing at near like the end season tournament where the Pacers got to the championship game, he had fell off a bit by the time that regular regular season came to an end, right? And people were thinking that his run earlier in the season was a bit of a fluke, right? He had a shooting slump, just wasn't the same guy that he was near the beginning of the season. And then he ends up turning around and leading that team to the conference finals. Now, was he perfect in the playoffs? No, right? Was he the best point guard in the playoffs? No, but still played at a level well enough that was able to lead his team to a really, really deep postseason run. Then we come back to this season where the numbers do fall off a bit. I think he's down from like 20 something points per game last season to 19, which isn't drastic, but it's still a bit of a downturn from what you were doing in the previous year. A lot of the conversation, we all heard it and saw it, was about Tyrese Haliburton being overrated, right? There was some thing where players voted him as the most overrated player in the NBA. I didn't know how I felt about that when I heard it, but that's what the players thought. Responds by coming in, having some amazing clutch postseason moments this year, and once again, getting this Pacers team to the conference finals. So again, like, it's not just about the accolades. It's not just about his game, which I'm a massive fan of, and he is like the definition of a true point guard. One of the few true point guards, or at least all-star true point guards in the league right now. It's not just that, but it's his ability, the intangible stuff, to respond to criticism in the best way possible. We can talk all about the clutch shots, the passes, those sorts of things, and maybe even the flaws. But one thing you have to give credit for when it comes to Tyrese Haliburton is this ability to respond to critics. Take that criticism, fair or not, and turn it into results. Very few players right now in the league are as great at that like Tyrese Haliburton is. So we'll see what ends up happening. It'll be very entertaining the rest of the way through. I would love to see a rematch of that Knicks-Pacers series that we got in the second round last year where Indiana was able to take the upper hand. Getting back-to-back Pacers-Knicks series, this adds this nostalgia to the game. Obviously, that was one of the biggest rivalries in the NBA throughout the 90s. So getting that and like back-to-back playoff runs will be really fun, right? And even if the Pacers do lose in the Eastern Conference Finals, I still don't want us to look at that as a failure. It is a massive feat for a team that does so well with like this soft reboot and soft rebuild. It is a massive feat for them to be able to get to a level where they're reliably good enough to make multiple conference finals appearances in consecutive seasons. So we'll see how things end up turning out. It'll be very fun the rest of the way through. And shout out to Indy for what they've been able to build and put together over these last couple of seasons.